Hi everybody, Levi Clay here, back again. And when I say again, I mean this is the second time I've had to record this because we just recorded half a conversation and I didn't actually record anything because that's what professionals do. So, back for another Mandates with Guitar Greats. And great really is the choice word here. One of my biggest influences on the progressive metal side of things. I talked about him just recently on top 5 prog albums that you haven't heard but you probably should. And yeah, it's an honour to be able to say hello to and welcome Mr. Ron Jarzombek. Say hello, my friend.
Howdy, dudes. What's up?
Hello again.
Yeah, take two. We're on take two now.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
professional. That's how these things work. So how you doing? You well?
yeah, pretty good. Pretty
Feels like
good.
we're treading old ground here. Like we've done these things before. We could go over time zone differences and all that stuff. But I tell you what,
Skip all that.
why don't we jump in by talking about who you are, where you're from? I'll tell the audience kind of my perspective on you, and then you can shatter all of that and tell us that you have all of these mad influences that maybe people wouldn't expect. So for anyone unfamiliar, Ron is one of the premier technical progressive metal players of the old guard. I say old guard because that's kind of how I think of that. There's like a whole new scene of progressive players that I can't even relate to anymore. I don't even understand it. I hear it and I'm like, what are all these kids listening to? Get out of my yard with this noise. But Ron's style is, it's progressive, it's technical. I first heard Ron's playing on his brother's instructional video, Bobby Jarzombek, fabulous drummer, very technical drummer. Some music on that, and then a friend said, well, you should check out, he actually has a band called Spastic Inc. And I checked out the Spastic Inc. albums, they're fantastic, and then Watchtower, which wasn't so much my cup of tea, but then Blotted Science came out and kind of really just spoke to me. And the solo albums, Solitary Speaking of Theoretical Confinement. And how do you even say the name for your first album?
That wasn't on the first take, but now I can't do it as good. Yeah, I
Yeah,
used to do that all the time, but yeah,
I'm not even going to try.
why? Why name a solo album that? I have no freaking idea.
Yeah, it's but I guess that's kind of that's you. You're mad. You listen to your music and it has that sense of playfulness and experimentation, and which is really cool. So why don't you talk to us about how you came up, why when you first picked up the guitar, why you did that, and what kind of influenced you?
Yeah, I played piano first when I was in the third and fourth grade. Remember this story, Levi?
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
Yeah, what did I say? I played piano when I was in the third or fourth grade, and then I switched to guitar after my friends told me that playing piano wasn't cool. And then discovered bands like Kiss and Rush came a little bit later. And around this time, me and my brother Bobby, we had our older brother Ralph, and we started playing, around little clubs and game rooms and stuff like that. And what else did I say last
Well,
time?
that's the thing I actually really like about this because now I know it's a genuine story. I was kind of hoping that this time you were going to tell a completely different
No,
story.
I
Like
didn't say game room
I
thing.
started out playing the tuba, and you are the enigma. So well, I like that you talk about Rush because obviously you played in a Rush tribute band for a long time. So clearly,
Oh yeah, the Rush.
Alex has been
Yeah,
a huge influence on you.
we Exit Stage Left is or was the name of the Rush tribute band. We've been together about 10 years, and we broke up about 2 weeks ago. And we break up all the time. This is like the sixth time that we broke up, and a bunch of drama crap like every other band that you're in.
And the tragic thing about that is you can't possibly put it down to creative differences.
Well, actually, we had a little bit of musical differences because Pete, actually, who plays in the on the Spastic Ink CDs,
Yeah,
he was kind of pulling one way, and me and the singer were pulling another way because we played other songs that weren't
I
Rush.
see. Okay, yeah,
We played some Maiden, we played some Rainbow, and we kind of mixed it up. And Pete was dead set on doing the Rush thing, and we kind of wanted to do something else, and we kind of clashed a little bit, but we had a pretty good medium of songs that we all like to do. Anyways,
yeah,
yeah, so that's kind of done, or who knows if it is.
yeah.
And then,
No, it's never done. Music runs through your veins.
yeah, I know. But yeah, we broke up 6 times, and who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah,
And then, so where was I at now? Kiss, Rush. Oh, UK.
yeah.
Started listening to guitar players like, Ingve, of course, was pretty early on. Eddie Van Halen. Steve Vai came around a little bit after that. I went through a little jazz phase.
And then quickly away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Al Di Meola was a favorite of mine for about 2 years, and then I did some Larry Carlton, something like that.
I find that interesting.
Actually, a little bit of Chick Corea, believe it or not, the Electric Band.
Yep.
But wasn't Al Di Meola in that band?
No, he was in
Or Frank Gambale?
Return to Forever, and then it was
Forever.
Scott Henderson on the first
Right.
Chick Corea Electric Band, and then Frank Gambale. So yeah.
So that lasted for a little while, and then Steve Vai was a pretty big influence. And then actually, I forgot earlier on the first take, Trevor Rabin.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you've heard his first solo album, but a song called Sludge was totally awesome. Just a lot of playing around with the instruments playing off of each other. I dug that. And then all of these Guitar Hero guys that are around. I've always been more of a band guy. We're straying off from the other take. Rush, I think. I mean, Alex Lifeson's a great guitar player and everything, but he was more focused on what the band was doing, what the band was writing, their concepts and everything, putting it all together.
That's good. That's why my wife can listen to Rush, but if I put on an instrumental guitar album, she wants to kill herself. It's just the way that is.
Not good.
Women, no taste. That's it. My channel over. I've said something negative about a woman. Things have ended for me. So let's talk. So those influences I find very interesting, actually, because I guess it's part of being so into the progressive thing. But actually, when you listen to the music that you have actually put out, there's less of those influences in there. There's you didn't really name anybody that I'd consider to be particularly heavy in there, but obviously Blotted Science, extremely heavy. Watchtower is a world away from all of those influences that you just said there. So where did those heavier influences creep in from then?
Yeah, it's a good question. Priest, Glenn Tipton, pretty big influence. I see I got the same haircut as Glenn. Yeah, Priest, UFO, a lot of Michael Schenker in there. I don't know if they're as heavy as Priest, but Sabbath, the Black Album, the We Sold Our Soul for Rock and Roll. Grew up with that album. Loved that. Sweet Leaf and Fairies Wear Boots and all that kind of stuff. Let me see who else was heavy. Yeah, Metallica, of course.
Yeah. That
came a little bit later, though. Mostly it was Priest. We played, me and my brothers, we played Victim of Changes, Ripper, Green Man Alishi, a lot of those tunes.
And who would have thought that all these years later, the brothers Jarzombek would have such strong connections to the band?
Yeah, I know, no shit. Looking at the back of that Sad Wings of Destiny album, seeing Halford sing, who had said, "Hey, Bob, you're going to be playing with this guy." Pretty
amazing.
Cool. Yeah.
So on our last conversation, you talked about your D chord, the D chord, and how you, because I'm interested obviously in the way that people learn, and you obviously had lessons on the piano, but you were self-taught on the guitar.
Oh yeah.
So
we talked about that.
Show us your D chord and how that came about.
Well, what I was saying was that I took a lot of my theory that I learned on piano and applied that to guitar. And instead of getting a guitar book to play your C chord and that kind of a thing, I would just take the notes that I played on a piano. And when I played the D chord, instead of playing like this, I would just figure out D, F sharp, A, and then I played it like this. It's got the F sharp on the bottom. G.
Yep.
And then I had the option of playing the D here or the B here, because I knew my theory, and that all kind of made sense. But yeah, my D chord, when everybody say B, that's what I do.
Every time you play a D, it wants to pull to G.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
And we were also talking last time about the fact of how music theory is such a bad word or a bad term.
Yeah.
And it's just real baffling to me that people knock theory so much when they really don't know what they're missing. And I have a hard time understanding how anybody does anything musically without knowing what they're doing, especially time-wise. 16th notes, triplets, and stuff like that, and time signatures, and
communication.
It's like such. yeah, it's such a bad word. And then when you have to relate to other band members, if they don't know music theory, it's hard to get ideas across. I
Right.
mean, but yeah, we would do stuff like that. But Bobby and I, when we were even in seventh and eighth grade, we were writing songs and with measures of 3.5, 7/8.
Yeah.
We'd call them halves. We
I
don't really
like that.
say.
If people check my Premier Guitar columns, I'm doing prog on Premier Guitar at the moment, and I've done 2 consecutive months of time signatures, and I talk about 7/8 and thinking of it as 3.5.
Yeah.
I like the way that
Oh,
counts.
wait, we did it that way because your metronome beat stays the same.
Right.
Instead of doubling.
Yep.
That's what we would say 3.5. But then when you get music programs, you can't really do that.
Sure.
So.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, about a week or two ago, I was reading on Facebook. Some kids were talking about somebody was stressing to them to learn theory, and they were like, "Oh, it's going to mess you up. It's going to ruin your musicality," and all this kind of stuff like that. And I just sit there shaking my head,
Yeah.
just saying, how are you going to play solos? How are you going to learn your chords? How are you going to learn keys? How are you going to change keys? How are you going to know your time signatures?
Yep.
And it's their call, but
Yeah. On the one hand, I want to go Exhibit A, Malmsteen. Speed, theory, it's technical, but all the feel is still there. All that passion. But actually, the thing that popped into my head is actually, Hans Zimmer or John Williams. Film music that I think we all agree its sole purpose is to be emotive. These are all people that are extremely well studied in what they do, and would they be able to elicit such emotional responses from people watching films unless they had some sort of idea of how to do it? I remember being in college and talking about like the Lord of the Rings soundtrack, and my teacher pointing out that, well, if you want something that sounds really kind of doom-like, lots of despair, take major chords and move them down in major thirds. And he just played that, and I went, wow, yeah, that's still, and to this day, that's something that I remember. And I can't imagine being in a position where I didn't know what that meant, where somebody said, why don't you try this? And me going, sorry, I don't know what that means. That we live in this society today where, like, I don't want to say it's cool to be dumb, but there is a contingent of society that seem to think that it's okay to shun knowledge, to pretend that global warming isn't a thing. Or actually over here, it's just been announced that in the UK, with obviously we're leaving the European Union, and our MPs have just voted to classify animals as not being sentient, so they can't feel pain or have emotions. Like, I don't really see what the relevance of that is to government, other than how that might be able to benefit people that want to do horrible things to animals. How can you possibly look at animals and say they're not sentient? Well, you can say animals aren't sentient, but you can't say that animals don't experience pain. It's an awful thing, but it's just shunning knowledge, isn't it? Like, who chooses to shun knowledge? Go out and learn as much as you can.
Well,
hurt
I
you.
think a lot of the kids now, just with rap being so popular, I mean, how musical do those people need to be to do what they're doing? Have you ever thought about this? Whenever if somebody comes out with a music book or just a book with, when you used to buy, you'd get hemispheres, you'd buy the notation book. If you have a rap, what's going to be in there?
Yeah. It's not the sort of stuff you want to write down anyway. But having said that,
there's no chords, there's no melodies, there's no anything. And I think a lot of the kids see that rap is popular, and I guess they think you don't need to know anything.
yeah, but and I guess that is kind of right. Like, you don't need to understand the language to write a great poem or to connect with people, write lyrics or whatever. But still, like, there are aspects of rap music that I quite enjoy. and that's from, I've not listened to a whole lot of rap in my life, but when I was younger, a little bit. And the thing that I took away from it is the interesting rhythms and accents that you'll hear from a rapper. So if I have a pulse, da 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 da, and the stresses that they'll put on their words to give an interesting accent pattern, sure, that's something they do subconsciously. My brain is too analytical to do something like that subconsciously. But from a teaching perspective, it's good to be able to look at something and say, this thing that you like, this is why you like it. This is the aspect of it that you can take from it. Why people would shun that, I have no idea. It's kind of tragic, really.
But, so they have rhythm, and that's it, huh?
Yeah, it's just yeah. Oh yeah, totally. They're nothing more than rhythm. Well, I don't know. Do they actually have more than that now? Because they like to use a lot of auto tune, and that must be a manual thing. They must be using to get the robot thing. They must be adjusting with Melodyne to get pitches where they want them to be. Maybe, who knows?
Well, if they're doing that, then yeah, they're hitting pitches. But if they're not hitting pitches, they're just talking. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways,
it's all right. It's a lesser form of music, just like jazz, right?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
No, we'll come to jazz. I promise we'll come to jazz. I want to talk about technique, actually, just because we did this before, and I know Aldi Meola was a big influence on you. And now we've got some of the more metal influences on your playing. When I listen to the Serial Mouse, or essentially any Blotted Science solo piece you've got on Solitary Speaking, there's naming tracks on that album is a nightmare. Bears don't fly
grizzly bears don't fly airplanes.
Grizzly bears don't fly airplanes. Yeah. So, if memory serves me correctly, that's another track that I think of as being like a stream of 16th notes. I could be totally wrong on that. Point is, there's a lot of tracks on there that are just kind of streams of 16th notes, long, extravagant, crazy runs that no human has any business being able to play, but somehow you can. So, kind of, where did that come from? Like, where was the practice, and how did that come about? What were you practicing?
That's all Rush and Aldi Meola.
Yeah.
A lot of the lines that are in like I don't know, I guess YYZ, stuff like that. La Via Strangiato, and then Race with the Devil and Spanish Highway, Aldi Meola. When we were kids, Pete, the bass player that's on the Spastic Ink CDs, when we were 16 and 17, he would come by and we'd play some of that stuff. We'd butcher it up pretty good, but that's what we were shooting for. But yeah, mostly that, and then bands like UK, Eddie Jobson, violin playing, all this keyboard stuff. I love that stuff. One thing I like saying about UK is that Danger Money is one of my favorite albums, and it doesn't even have a guitar player. I love that album.
That's a very jazz thing to say. You'll notice a theme in all of
I don't know. Yeah, if you want to get into the jazz territory right now, I don't know if that's kind of jazz, because I don't really see Al Di Meola as really jazz either. I see him as more of a harmonic minor kind of a guy. As in, when I was growing up, I would listen to him. I liked him because he was heavier than those other guys.
Sure.
But it just didn't seem he had that same kind of jazzy sound. But
well, I guess okay, we can talk jazz. So that I always, less when I was younger. I was heavily into the classical thing and classical composition. I wasn't really classically trained, but I was going through college doing classical music, lots of film scores and stuff like that. And there were a couple of guys at college that were into the jazz thing, and I remember them burning me CDs of here's Giant Steps, go home and listen to Giant Steps kind of thing. And I could appreciate the technical aspect of it, but yeah, my ear certainly, it was outside of what Tom Quayle always described as acceptable perceived level of dissonance. It was way too out there for me. And I always found comfort in that when I would read things that you say, where you say, I'm not really into jazz. I found that warming, that it's, especially in 2017, you seem to have to say you're into jazz in 2017. You've got bands like Animals as leaders where their fans are like, oh yeah, I like jazz because I like Animals as leaders. It's like, motherfucker, that's not jazz. So you've always been more classical, right? I mean, you've got a little Beethoven statue just next to you, so.
Oh yeah. Did we do that on this take, or was that the other take?
That was before we even filmed. Yeah.
Da-na-na-na. Da-na-na-na. Okay.
So,
and what was the question again?
So,
jazz.
Yeah, jazz, classical, Talk to us.
Okay, I grew up a rock guy, and I didn't really have any jazz influences at all. You know, I'm always been a theory guy too. And it kind of seemed to me that when you went into the jazz territory, the level of heaviness kind of, it was hard to play, you know, 7 sharp 5 chords and stuff like that in a metal context,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so I always kind of took the metal over all of the you know, all of the notes playing around and doing a lot of you know, I don't want to say dissonant, but just that jazzy sound,
Yep.
you know. And so time signatures is that jazzy. If you do odd time signatures, if you do 7/8 or, you know, 13/16, some people call that jazz because it's complicated, but I don't look at it
Sure.
as jazz because it doesn't have that tonality.
Yeah.
To me, that's a timing figure. And so you're kind of caught in between what is progressive, what is jazzy,
Yep.
what is fusion. I think fusion is kind of a mix of all of those.
Yeah.
But I like weird time signatures and you know, real weird subdivisions and stuff like that. And just the tonality of jazz never really appealed to me. And it really came out when I got in Watchtower, and those guys, they're not theory guys. A lot of the Watchtower tunes that I had to learn, I was like, where's this coming from? You know? And Doug always said that whatever I was writing, because I was so theory conscious, he said it's too pretty sounding.
Right.
Right. And so with Watchtower, I couldn't write in major and minor keys. You know, I started bringing diminished stuff in, whole tone stuff in like that. And I was like, what can I do that will work with this band tonality wise? That's not going to be pretty, but it's not jazzy.
Right.
So here comes all this 12 tone kind of stuff like that, where I had rules to follow, but it wasn't jazzy.
Right.
And it was heavy. It was very dissonant. And so that kind of like worked for what we were doing. And it's not, some people say Watchtower is jazz. I don't really say it's jazzy. Rick, the drummer, is jazzy, but I'm not a jazz guitar player at all.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like one of these technical prog guys, I guess.
Yeah.
But the jazzy stuff, I don't really hear that. But I've been labeled that sometimes, and I'm like, all right, whatever.
Well, you don't
Actually,
play the major scale, therefore you're jazz.
Yeah.
That's how
No,
that
I
works.
played on a guy named Ray. I think his last name is Renew or something like that. I was like a guest guitar player on that, and everybody else was a jazz guy. And I remember I was like, man, I'm going to be so out of place on this thing. And I played on a song and I did a solo. I thought it worked pretty good, but I was just thinking, man, I'm not a jazz guy. This ain't going to happen. But it turned out pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. Like I say, the thing about your style is it is your own, and if you go down the jazz route, it's too easy to. I've spent so much time like trying to absorb as much Charlie Parker vocabulary as I possibly can, and 10 years down the road, like it all still just sounds like I'm playing Charlie Parker licks and stuff. Whereas, you know, you sound like you, which is cool. Let's talk about your composition then. So when I think of like one of the first things I was exposed to of yours was, of course, the Serial Mouse. How did you get into that sort of thing, composing for images and taking inspiration from? Yeah,
Man, that goes back. I mean, to the first Spastic Ink album, we had a song called "The Morning with Squeaky."
yes,
It's a song about a little squirrel, dog chases him and stuff like that. But even back then, you know, I've always wanted to have the 3.5 minute cartoon that synced up with that, you know, with the music and everything. And I don't know. I think the first movie that I discovered with the music to it was a movie called Troll. And it was about these little elves. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's pretty stupid. And then I got into From Beyond and The Reanimator.
Yep.
And those movies, they just flipped me out. And I just noticed the music a lot. And me being all technical and stuff like that, I just wanted everything to kind of to work together. And you know, then later on, well, the Blotted Science, the second EP, That's all we did was 24 minutes of bug movies, and that was a really big accomplishment. Let me tell you, syncing all that shit up like that. Holy shit!
I can't even like that's the sort of thing where I'd want to sit down and film your like the working process for it, because I can't even begin to imagine how you go about doing it. It's just
Well, now, I mean, with a Pro Tools or Cubase or whatever, you can import a movie and you can stop it, and make little marks of where you want your timing to end and stuff like that. But back then, I had two computers and I had two space bars, and I would, time things out, with a metronome, and then the other one would have the movie playing, and I'd stop the movie at a certain point and, kind of watch them and listen and everything. And if it was right, that's where my next section would start or something like that. And on that, the Blotted Science EP that has all those bug movies, the tempos on that thing shift a lot.
Yeah.
You'll have one section that's 127 BPMs and then 130. And I had to do that so that it fit with the movie. But otherwise than that, that's a huge no-no. You don't fuck with the tempo. You leave the tempo as it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But for that movie, that was more of a priority, scoring it. And I didn't want to slow the movie down or speed it up or anything. Yeah. And so we had to adjust the tempos.
This is where I come in and start making suggestions, because I'm in a position to make suggestions, right? But the first thing that popped into my head is I remember getting that EP and listening to it and thinking, wow, this is fantastic. Some of it very strange, but fantastic. And then when I was made aware of which films they synced up with, watching the bit from King Kong, just going, wow, I understand it on a different level now. I totally get it. But for obvious legal reasons, you could never release a DVD with those things on. Wouldn't it be awesome if somebody made a bunch of animations for Ron? Somebody out there watching this, make a bunch of movies for Ron. Ron, listen to them, make some music, and release a DVD. Because that's the sad thing about that EP. It is fantastic. It genuinely is. I still listen to it, and I love it. But I kind of have to try and imagine the film, like the tracks playing, and I imagine Jack Black going mad, smashing shit up.
Well, it's funny for me whenever I watched King Kong, the full movie a couple of times after we did that, and whenever that bug scene comes up, I'm just thinking, man, no offense to
I'm not sure who scored that.
I'm like, dude, this is so fucking lame,
Yeah, I mean, that's a really creepy scene in general, and you just somehow make it even more creepy, which is really cool. I like that.
But I even on my first solo CD on that one, there's a song on there called "Oh No, Mr. Kitty," and it's about these 4 mice and this cat. He chews up all these mice and spits them out and stuff, and it's pretty cool. But that one too, I wish I had a movie for it.
Yeah.
Just so people could see what I was thinking. But that song, "A Morning with Squeaky," man, we have the whole thing panned out to where he grabs the nut and bites it and chews it. I mean, I could animate the whole freaking thing.
I had I remember hearing that for the first time and having no concept of what it was, the relevance of it, and then somebody did sync it to the film, and all of the vocals, all of the speaking it's all there. You just hear it and go, what? How? What's going on in this madman's brain? How have you done this? I genuinely always found it really fascinating, and it kind of made me want to do and be more progressive about things. Let's talk about theory then and tonality, because you talked about atonality. And obviously the thing that I've kind of pushed with your stuff on people over the years is like atonalism, serialism in general. It reached its conclusion as far as the classical musicians saw. They were like, okay, we've done everything that we can do with this. And I constantly just wanted to push this idea that like people need to go and check out what Ron's doing, because Ron has found something new that can be done with this that no one's done before. And classical composers should take an interest in that, because that entire world is all about that, isn't it? It's about what's possible, what can we do. I was watching Adam Neely's new video, and he's playing Poem Symphonique with 100 metronomes, all set to certain times, and listening to the shifting time signatures, minimalism, and all of that. You know, they love that. They love experimentation, and you've got your own thing. So how? Please explain to me how or why this came about. Like, give us a brief rundown of it. I'll for anyone watching, I'll also link to a bunch of Ron's videos where he teaches about this, talks about this, teaches this stuff, and you've still got products on the subject, right? Where you for the EP, or is that all free now?
I posted a lot of that kind of stuff. I was selling little segments, but I just said, just put the whole thing up.
Well, I'll link to that. But yeah, give us a brief rundown of how that came out.
Well, one thing about all the 12-tone stuff is it's real frustrating when I first came up with that. And first of all, I didn't come up with it. I mean, I just thought, let's do this. Did anybody do it before me? I don't know, and I fucking didn't care.
I don't think
I just didn't care. But when I came up with this circle and everything, you know, how to do this combination, you know, I thought it was pretty inventive, and so I put it up there, and I had so many people ragging on these things. Schoenberg does 12-tone, and I'm like, there's no fucking matrix here. There's no retrograde, intrograde, third grade, fourth grade. There's none of that shit. It's like I'm doing stuff with 12 notes. That's what I'm doing.
Yep.
And I made the mistake of using the word 12-tone, you know, but yeah, I looked a little bit into how Schoenberg does the matrix, and I'm like, holy shit, what I'm doing is so simple compared to this. I mean, all I do is I take all 12 notes. I say notes now, not tones, by the way. And I just take all 12 notes and I just chop them up and do different things with them. And, you know, divide them up into certain patterns. And the way that circle of 12 tones thing worked was you could rotate all of the notes in it and divide it up into certain sections. Yep. And whatever notes you got from those subgroups, you either put those into different scales or worked with them in different ways. Yep. And it's the whole 12-tone thing for me. It's just opened up so many doors, because before that I was stuck doing a lot of, you know, major minor 6-5-4-5, probably jazz guy 6-2-5-1, secondary dominance, modulating to various keys, and do other things like this. Like I'll take apart some Queen songs sometimes, and they do so many cool things that are legit, you know. And the stuff that I do, it doesn't go into that territory. Yep. You know. But for me, it's just opened a lot of tonality kind of doors to where I never would have come up with certain things unless I had this kind of system. And that's kind of why I do it.
That's why I like it, because you talk about Schoenberg and saying that what you do is kind of simple compared to what that second school of Viennese composers were doing. And you're right, it is. But I feel that's why it works. I feel that's why it's so interesting, because their goal, of course, is like true atonality, a piece of music that doesn't have a key, whereas yours isn't. It's not really that. It still kind of has like a tonal center to it, but well,
I look at it as tonal. You have a tonal center here, and then you have another one here, then another one here. And then I also, these people with the Schoenberg accusations, they'd also say, ooh, my picture just moved. Oh, there it went back. They say, you're doing it wrong. You can't repeat a note until you've played all the other notes. And I'm like, dude, that's not the fucking system. I'm not doing that system. I'm using all 12 notes. That's it.
Yeah.
You know, and I have my own rules about what I can and can't do, but all of Schoenberg's rules, it's not that system.
Yeah.
And so I don't follow that.
Yeah. So yeah, for anyone that has listened to that and is interested, I can't express how much fun you'll have digging into this. So I'm even going to bring my face up on screen, so it's just me. Watch it. Go and watch these videos of Ron doing this stuff and explaining it, because it's just fascinating. Not just what he's doing, because you might listen to what he does and go, you know what, I don't like that. But that's fine. That's kind of what music is. You're allowed to not like things. But what you can take from it is you can do something fresh, something that's never been done before. Go out and make your own sound and do your own thing. And yeah, make your mark. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to just, I was going to say play in a Rush tribute band, but you play in a Rush tribute band, so that's a really bad example. But yeah, push boundaries, especially in the progressive scene. Like I plan to do a video talking about prog, and I'm going to rag on Dream Theater, which is terrible because I've got a Dream Theater tattoo, which I hate. I'm terribly embarrassed by it. I went to see the band Chon recently. Have you heard Chon?
They're more of a clean kind of a guitar kind of thing, right?
Yeah. I wasn't. Someone said, "Do you want to come see them?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll buy a ticket." I wasn't entirely sure. I'd heard the name, and I checked out a couple of videos on YouTube and watched them play live on YouTube and some stuff. And I was like, I'm really not going to enjoy this. Really not going to enjoy this. But I went down to the gig, and you know what? I like being wrong. They were fantastic. They were genuinely very fantastic. They kept me on my toes all night. It felt like proper prog. It felt really like, I don't want to say like they were pushing boundaries, but yeah, I never quite knew what was going to happen next. And yeah, all right, I was making fun of the fact that I'm 29 now. I was probably the oldest person at that gig, which is a sign of the people that listen to it. But yeah, I kind of walked away and I was like, you know what, I've got to give them their dues, because that to me is progressive. The next Dream Theater album, is it prog? Is it really prog? You can pause the song and pretty much guess what's going to happen for the rest. Like it's going through the old tricks, doing what you've done before, but just trying to mix it up a little bit. Whereas, what you're doing or have done, what bands like Chon are doing, and to me that's exciting. That's like the spirit of progressive music, progressive rock, doing something that's fresh and exciting. So yeah, go out and do something fresh and exciting, people. Last subject, I think, because I feel bad that we've gone on and on and on, and then we had to redo it all. I'm really interested in your guitars.
Oh yeah,
Because you're. I mean, we're looking around, and on your screen I can see an Ibanez behind you. That doesn't look like it. Oh no, it does have strings on it. An Ibanez, but yeah, your guitars. You're not an endorser kind of guy, are you? You're not. I'm going to play.
That's my only store-bought guitar that I have. I think.
So you like butchering guitars and rebuilding and just making the thing that's perfect for you.
Yeah, here's my main one right now.
Yeah. So tell us about that guitar. Like, what is that guitar? How has that come about? And more importantly, why has that come about?
This guitar, the neck that's on it was actually from a small scale bass.
Right.
Okay, and so I took all of I shaved the fretboard, the fingerboard off, put a new board on it, and then recut the fret slots, and I reshaped the headstock so it looks like an Ibanez. Yes, it would be great to have an Ibanez endorsement, but oh well.
I'll tweet at them.
Yeah, and then this shape I kind of came up with when I was on tour with Marty Friedman, and he hated it. I thought it was kind of cool, but whatever. And I do this thing where I have 27 frets on my guitars. And the back, I have to extend the neck a little bit.
Right.
I have to cut them up. And then here's my 7-string. This is I took on the Blotted Science covers and stuff. Yep. On the inside. And it's the same thing. The neck is bondoed up, if you can see on the sides.
Yep.
Because I got a 7-string Floyd Rose bridge, and it was a little bit wider, and so I had to extend the neck. But yeah, it's a pretty cool guitar.
So this kind of idea of tinkering with guitars to kind of make them perfect for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Things like this, like if I play a Les Paul, I have a hard time playing it because the part right here kind of digs into your arm.
Yeah.
So I have this cutaway kind of like a Strat.
Right.
Oh shit! Get my printer. Yeah, that kind of seats really good. I have this horn thing coming out a lot more just for the balance when you play. It's kind of sticking out a lot more, and then the cutaway is a lot deeper than most guitars. This is all the way to the 25th fret, actually. Most guitars like SGs or shit like right here.
Yeah.
And
it's funny, like the reason I find it really interesting is because I know, like, obviously fans of you and your music, if they had the opportunity to maybe buy one of those guitars from you and have it as theirs forever, they treasure it. But they wouldn't treasure it. Sorry, they would treasure it. But if for example, they built a guitar from Warmoth parts, there's always this kind of niggling doubt in the back of their mind that, oh, this is a parts caster that I've put together. It's not as cool as like a Fender. And yeah, to me that's really crazy. I kind of go out of my way to modify all of my guitars in one way or another, so they have no resale value. Because
Yeah, the guitars. When I make guitars, I do it make it in two sheets. This is a 1x6 or 1x7, 1x7 here, 3/4 inch top on the bottom,
yep,
and then the bottom the half. I mean a full inch,
right,
and that's in three. It's in three sections. There's a 1x4, a 1x4, and a 1x4.
yeah,
And I glue them all together. But yeah, this is no kit.
yeah,
We're talking about
sure.
buying lumber from Alamo Hardwood.
I mean, I think
know.
that's a real a bold step that I appreciate most people watching this will never go down that route of just building their own guitar. And I've not done it myself either, but yeah, I don't mind modifying a guitar that I have to make it more like what I need it to be or what I need it to do. I've had, £3,000 Gibson Les Paul custom shop Les Pauls and taken a bit of zero grade wire wool to the back of it because I don't like the way the neck feels. Whereas most people will be like, "What are you doing? What, you're destroying?" No, I'm not. It's an instrument. It's a tool, and it's there for me to use to make music. And if I need to change something about it to make it right, I'm going to do that rather than live with the things that I hate about the instrument. I don't want to do that.
Well, that's kept me from getting a couple of endorsements right there because I want to change certain things on the guitar, and they're like, "Nope, you can't shave off that part of the body right there, and no, you can't put a humbucker pickup in this area right here." So I'm kind of screwed.
Yeah, you talk about like Ibanez, and I have obviously friends that are endorsed by Ibanez, and either in Europe or America, and they'll see a guitar that's in Japan, and they'll go, "Can I get one of those, please?" And they're like, "No, you're only allowed to play the guitars that are available in your territory." Like, what is that? What is that? I understand. Well, I don't understand the business mentality behind it, because just play a guitar in Japan. Guess what? People in Japan are still watching your videos. It's still going to encourage someone to buy the damn thing. But yeah, that kind of limitation just seems crazy to me. Putting limitations on musicians, never a good idea. But if I go any further down that route, we'll be talking about the music industry, and we don't want to do that. So,
No.
What about that other guitar behind you, the one with the spastic ink artwork on it?
Yeah, that's pretty much the same thing. That only has 24 frets, but I built that one right after the first Spastic Ink CD. Nothing crazy about that one.
And when you went to Japan with Marty Friedman, it was a Marty Friedman tour? You built a guitar that you could take the neck off and the body so you could fit it in a suitcase?
Yeah, I don't even know where that body is right now. But yeah, that's...
See, I know my shit.
Wait a minute, what is that guitar?
I'm not a Fairweather fan. I'm a seasoned Jarzombek fan.
I use that guitar for lessons, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the neck that's on there, that one's on my lesson guitar.
Right. So yeah, it was a case of you needed a small guitar because you were going on tour, and because struggling musicians. So you.
No, it was more of you can only take two cases with you when you're going overseas, and I just got tired of putting the guitar in the other chute that comes out, and you praying that it's there.
Yeah.
When you come out, and so I was like, "Fuck it, I'm just going to put it in my case," and that's what I did.
Good, I like that.
But Marty was cool enough to where when we did the last couple of tours, I got to use an Ibanez on the DVD that we did. I used one of his Ibanez guitars.
That
sounds cool.
I guess is the upside of an endorsement. If your guitar does go missing on a flight, it's generally quite easy to get another one. Whereas your guitars are all irreplaceable.
If you build your own guitar, you kind of fucked.
Yeah. I can't.
So you pay a lot.
I don't think I'd ever want to take that red guitar on a flight. No, it's either staying with me or I don't get on the flight. I'd be too scared that I'd lose it. Okay, so let's kind of close things up then, because I've taken up way too much of your time. Let's talk about where people can go to find out more about you, kind of more importantly, like products that you've got available and ways that people can help support you. Like, for example, do you do Skype lessons or anything like that?
Right now, no, I'm just teaching. In town, I teach at 2 different places. I might get back into doing Skype. I was doing that a couple of years ago. But the day that I was doing Skype, I got a gig in town just teaching live in person, so I dropped the Skype thing. But right now, I'm working on two more CDs, but I'm trying to get more into apps. I had an app out a couple of years ago.
I remember that, yeah.
A multi-tracking app. Apple took it down because it's a long story. but I'm trying to get some more out to do that. Um, I want to do, like I was talking about doing the scoring and having other things involved with the music. I just think there's a lot of cool things that I could be doing with an app, where it's interactive
Sure.
with who's ever's listening to it. And that's kind of what I'm working on right now. If a band situation comes up, that's cool. Um, the blotted science thing is not looking too good right now. We're not going to talk about
We're not going
that.
to talk about that.
But if it does, if it picks up, cool. If not, it's not that big of a deal, because it's not a real band. It's a recording
Sure.
project. Watchtower had our EP release. That's probably the end of that. So, I kind of want to get into other things, and this whole idea that you can only do band related things since you've been a band guy, I'm just kind of not gonna give in to that. I kind of want to do other things,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what I'm doing right now. But I figure I'll have another CD out, which will be relating to the app stuff that I'm talking about, probably next year.
Okay.
But in the meantime, everybody can pick up whatever Blotted Science or Spastic Ink CDs that they want.
And do you still have a store on your website for people to get stuff like that?
No, most of it right now is done through CD Baby,
Ooh.
and you don't like CD Baby?
Well, just like, I'm not going to go down the music business route, but isn't it a shame that we can't just not have a middleman to take some of the money? Wouldn't it be?
Oh, well, I mean, you can. I sold everything, online
Hmm.
for 15 years, and I just got sick of doing it.
Hmm. I guess all of those
Handling.
trips to the post office can be a pain.
Yeah, I've gone to the post office twice in one day before because I got too many orders and it was just too much stuff to handle, and then handling all the shirt stuff too.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm done. And so now what I do is I just take CDs to CD Baby and they distribute them
Yeah.
wherever.
Okay, fair enough. So people can check your stuff out on CD Baby.
Or wherever, just look up online. They can get them at I think it's called Alliance, Amazon,
Yeah.
wherever.
And there, of course, were, I assume, all of the last EP was transcribed. Nothing to do with me. I'm not hocking one of my products here. But yeah, you transcribed all of that, right? And
Yeah, that's online on my YouTube channel. If you go to, you know what? I don't even know if the PDFs are on there.
well, I'll talk about
Maybe I
another
should go do
PDF that
that.
I'm probably sure it also isn't up there. So I've still got. I could walk out that door into my library, and I've got those display wallets. I printed out the entire first Spastic Ink album tabs
Yeah,
that you
that's
had
on
posted.
there.
Is that
Yeah.
still up? Yeah, I'm
You know
sure
what?
that.
I think it is on there. I think it is. If it's not, I'll put it up.
Yeah, so
But
people
all those
can
videos
try and learn some of your stuff.
for the second EP, all those videos are up if they want to check those out.
Cool. Okay, so I guess any closing advice that you'd give to young guitar players out there that want to play more music, do more things, touch people in the way that you've touched people?
Not really. Not really. As we talked about earlier, not really.
Yeah, best bit of advice, don't be
Good
a
luck.
musician.
All I can say is good luck, kids, in the new music world. Good luck.
Yeah, it's a scary place out there. It's like
Yeah.
it's like the Wild West. Only people aren't even fighting over money; they're fighting for internet fame. Says the guy
Well,
making YouTube videos.
I'll say one thing. Anybody that is successful, whatever business you want to get into, pay attention and listen to them. That's one thing that kids need to do. If somebody's successful in what they're doing and they're telling you something, pay attention because they know what they're talking about.
Yep. What better advice could you give than that? I like that. Okay, I'll do the close. So there you go, people. Mr. Ron Jarzombek, one of the monster masters of progressive metal guitar. As I've said, go and check out some of his products, be that CDs or just the instructional videos, which are actually now all free. So go and check them out. You will learn something from him. He has a unique approach to music theory, and that's a good thing to absorb yourself with. So huge thank you to Ron for that. Currently on screen you will see a link. There's a couple of buttons actually. There's a button up here somewhere, and here there is one of Ron's videos. So click that, go and check him out. And just down here you will see another button. That is Ron's YouTube channel. Click it, go and check him out. Up here somewhere floaty hands. There's a link to my YouTube channel. Click this, subscribe, and of course down here my Patreon, because Patreon's awesome and it allows me to spend loads of time doing stuff like this and, you know, still being able to feed my family, which is awesome. So thank you so much, guys, for all of the support. It really does mean the world. Yeah, much love, and I will see y'all for another video soon. Bye.